a Playlyst original.
Welcome to the Pilot Podcast,
where we review the pilot episodes of TV shows to answer your question, should I watch this?
My name is BJ.
And my name is Mitu.
And this week, we're watching St. Denis Medical on NBC, Say Nothing on FX on Hulu, The Day of the Jackal on Peacock, and Cross on Prime Video.
So stay tuned to the end to find out what book BJ wants to see turned into a TV show next.
Okay. I think I have an idea. But before that, let's go to one of your favorite genres of television.
Tell us what happened on St. Denis Medical on NBC.
An eclectic team of underfunded yet dedicated doctors, nurses, and medical staff are doing their best not to lose their patients in an Oregon hospital overrun with patients, while caring for everyone who comes in the door, including each other. So, Mitu, what did you think of this NBC workplace comedy?
I love that NBC's comedy bench is so deep because there are such wonderful comedians here. In the devoted supervising nurse Alex, played by Allison Tolman, we have a very funny character, but then also Allison Tolman I've seen on so many different sitcoms, and so it's nice to see her get to star in another one. And I hope this one lasts for a while. And then we have the legend, Wendy McClendon-Covey, playing the hospital administrator Joyce, which was exciting to see her. I loved her on The Goldbergs. Also love her as the voice of the mom on Big City Greens. And then we have the real legend, David Alan Grier, as a very exhausted Dr. Ron. So he brought both a lot of humor and heart to this. So I just love that NBC comedy bench.
And I think that trio right there is a really solid cast to lead this story, because you have Alex working too hard, Ron, who's just in chill mode, and Joyce, who's very ambitious, but in a comedic way. And we actually find out that she is well-trained and qualified for her job, which surprised me.
Yes, the reveal of her background was genuinely very funny, and it contributed to this classic kooky workplace comedy. It did not surprise me at all that the creators behind this were the same people who made Superstore and American Auto. We see some of the casts of both of those shows on this cast, and it really feels like those shows because I think those show creators do a really great job of capturing the essence of workplace comedy, which is part humor and then part a ton of awkward interaction between people.
And a newly hired white man who doesn't know what's going on in an established team in a specialized area.
Shout out to Mekhi Leeper, who was a joy as the fish out of water. I loved the background of that character as guy from really conservative town whose family and town folk don't believe in medicine. So he's truly learning about new things like different medical things, but then also just societally. It looks as though he's speaking to women, for example, for the first time ever.
He is learning so much about life, and you have someone like Serena, played by Ki-Hyun Kim, who is entertained by his bumbling nature. But I also was wondering the whole time, how did Matt become a nurse? Did he not have to pass some sort of class or training?
Truly unclear, because every nurse I've encountered is wildly competent. Just intensely aware of everything. So I don't know.
How would you feel if your nurse accidentally injected themselves instead of you?
I don't know that I would have stayed at that hospital, but it also sounds like the people who are going to this hospital need to go to this hospital because it is one that takes patients, whether you're able to pay for it or not, whether you're insured or not. So I wonder if it's a little bit of okay, this is what it is.
Yeah, I think if you go here, this might be the best option you have available.
Yeah, if you go here, here's where you have to go.
But Joyce is trying to change that to make it just the best option in Oregon.
I thought it was sweet how much these characters care because it is a kooky workplace comedy, but you do see them go above and beyond in their own ways for the patients. Even Dr. Ron really taps in, both for his patients when he figures out what's wrong with the patient before his Superstore colleague does, and in how he cares for Alex, who is working so hard that she is missing her daughter starring as Donna in Mamma Mia.
That's a great point. I like that they leave all the comedy for the awkward interactions and misunderstandings, but when it comes to actual medical attention for the patients or people's personal lives, they allow that to be more serious and heartfelt.
More grounded, I would say.
Yes, it's a good balance of grounded and kooky.
NBC knows comedy.
That is 100% true. And with this latest NBC comedy, will you watch more episodes of St. Denis Medical?
Yes, I've already seen the second episode. You already know. So I will watch this again seriously. Sitcom Hive, check in, tap in. This one's for us. You can keep watching more of this. It's such a fun, cute, kooky workplace comedy. I don't know that it's like amazing, but it's funny.
I guess I need to catch up. I'm an episode behind, having only watched the pilot. This is a would watch again, seriously. If you like Superstore, and I loved Superstore, I think you'll like this as well.
Agreed. Why don't you take us from kooky workplace comedy to historical drama?
You're talking about Say Nothing on FX on Hulu. This series follows the lives of people growing up in Belfast in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s during the Troubles, as well as their involvement in the Provisional Irish Republic Army and inquiries into the disappeared, and particularly the murder of Jean McConville. We get a lot of our story from the perspective of Dolores Price, played by Lola Pettigrew as a child and Maxine Peake as an adult. So me too, what were your first impressions?
I thought the use of the flash forward with Dolores doing the podcast interview was really, really effective. I thought I would get confused between the multi-generations covering the Troubles, but I actually love that we focused more in the past and then we would cut forward, and it felt like those podcast scenes where Dolores is in the present reflecting on that time. It's more like she was punctuating what we just saw or putting a button on things, or even toward the end, opening things up for more intrigue.
I liked that we had the podcast perspective of going back and seeing the different time points and what was going on with the story. Although, I've got to be honest, me too, it was tough to watch some of these scenes.
There was such a gleeful participation in violence against the Catholic Irish people that was so hard to watch. It's a historical drama. It's based on a really, really popular book covering the disappearances and covering this time. So it gives you a bit of that unflinching look into what mob violence can look like. And so it is hard. It's like when you watch these old videos of civil rights protests and things, and it feels like people made social occasions out of harming and oppressing. And they show that pretty plainly here when we see a young Dolores attempt to do a nonviolent march and instead get trapped by police and a lot of Protestants and British Protestants who wanted to beat her and the other nonviolent marchers. That was a really, really tough scene.
Right. We see a lot of that violence, and I think it's important to note that while we're saying it's tough to watch with the violence, this is nowhere close to the gory, bloody, violent shows we may have seen in the past.
Yeah.
But you see and feel the hatred that they have when they are just kicking people while they're down. And it's hard to describe how hateful it felt when you see it.
Yes, in this scene, they actually flash forward to Dolores nearly 30 years later talking about it on the podcast. And she said, "I looked into the eyes of the people who were beating us, and they were glazed over with hate. And I thought to myself, I never want to convert any of these people." So you also see that this is where a young Dolores lost her innocence, the thought that she had that she might be able to connect with these people or open them up to Catholicism. She was like, these people and I are two separate paths.
And we're chuckling a little bit of that understandable choice. And there were some moments of humor, some lightness mixed in with the heavy moments as well.
Yes, there were some pretty funny scenes where she was successfully directing some of the domestic resistance acts, such as which telephone poles to cut. And I thought it was very funny where she was like, we needed to do fundraising. And then the next scene was someone robbing a bank. I thought that was a very, very funny cut after that word. So they were able to bring in some humor, which when you read accounts from people who have resisted or survived resistance, there are these moments of lightness where you are making fun of each other because you still have those human elements. You're still interacting while you're striving toward this larger goal, or believe that you're striving toward this larger goal, because we learned that Dolores also questioned some of her involvement in movement.
True. A lot of question of who is and isn't a member of the Provisional Irish Republican Army.
I also thought we would lean more into the disappearance of Jean, because that is what the book is about, and we open with that in this first episode, but we really focus on Dolores from that point forward. So I'm curious about Jean and Dolores and where those stories intersect.
That's a good question. Will you watch more episodes of Say Nothing on FX on Hulu to find out when their stories, or if they do, intersect?
It's really good. I'm just not a historical drama person, and it's very violent. So I will probably finish this show, but this is one where I'll watch an episode and then wait a really long time and then watch the next episode. So it's not even would watch again casually. It's like we'll watch when I have the capacity for how difficult some of this is. But I recommend it. It's really good. You just have to have a tolerance for being able to see some of this tough stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I would watch this maybe while folding laundry. I want to be a little bit distracted, but I am interested in hearing more of Dolores' life story and the journey that she is starting to go on in this pilot episode, because I think her perspective is going to be really interesting with her contributions to the fight, and now that she feels comfortable revealing that information on the podcast segment of the story.
True.
So how about we go from protests to assassins?
You're talking about The Day of the Jackal on Peacock. The Jackal, played by Eddie Redmayne, is an elite sniper and master of disguise who carries out assassinations for the right fee. After receiving his riskiest job offer yet, he finds himself attracting the attention of firearms expert and British intelligence officer Bianca, played by my wife, Lashana Lynch, whose goal is to hunt him down.
Pop quiz.
Okay.
What show does this remind you of?
Killing Eve.
Correct. Ding, ding, ding.
It's very Killing Eve, where I'm not necessarily rooting for anyone. I'm just intrigued by the cat and mouse of it all. But in Killing Eve, I would argue they built better intrigue in that first episode. In this one, I'm more longing to understand how these two will actually cat and mouse with each other.
Yeah, this first episode is really good at the setup. We see how talented the Jackal is at assassinating his targets.
He kills people real good.
Real good. And we see Bianca's expertise, her contribution to MI6, where she knows guns really, really well. And she knows the gun makers as well, which apparently is key to this investigation. But we haven't seen those two interact, and we haven't seen them come close to it either. So this really is just establishing who our main cast is so far.
And our main cast is acting.
Great acting, great action, and great makeup on the Jackal.
That's true. I would say specifically for Lashana Lynch, Bianca is annoying. Like, that character is annoying.
Her coworkers think so too.
Her coworkers think so. She is just such an expert, but that makes her a know-it-all, and it makes her a little bit pushy and annoying in the workplace. And I think portrayed by someone who is not as adept as Lashana Lynch, she would almost be unwatchably annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you're just kind of like, oh, Bianca, but you keep watching.
That's so true. Her annoying behavior doesn't dissuade you from watching more of the show. it just makes you kind of frustrated that she's the one who's taken charge of this investigation.
Yes, and we get to see a little bit of how that costs in her personal life. She cannot even admit to people that she has a husband and child because that would be very unsafe for her and her husband and her child. And you see that some relationships are strained at home because she has to be so dedicated to work. We don't see as much on the Jackal's side with what is going on in his home life. We get a little peek into it, but we definitely see more of the cost for Bianca, which I don't know, maybe women assassins, I don't know if they would have a similar issue being able to have it all.
They could be in unique positions. I am curious, and I will say that's a strength of this pilot. I'm curious about the Jackal's personal life. We just get hints of it. We see him actually taking on requests from potential clients, and they are offering a lot of money. And I'm curious why he needs or wants all this money, because presumably after one job, you're set for life.
Yes, he seems a little hard up for cash. I don't quite understand why, but there's a moment where someone tries to stiff him where you're like, one, I don't know that I would stiff that assassin after seeing what he's capable of, but then two, he seems more upset about it than just like, oh, this person is trying to keep money from me, but rather he seemed almost scared.
Yeah, I guess even assassins have their weaknesses.
Mortgage, expensive. Insurance, expensive. He has some expensive hobbies. He likes to collect these chess kits. So maybe he's like starting to tally those numbers.
That's true. He has to buy all of the, let's say, equipment to have fake personas.
Yeah, he checked his Rocket Money app and he was like, hold on, how much money is coming in versus out? This has to make sense. He went in QuickBooks. He said, uh-oh.
That's why he's desperate for another job.
Yeah. And I'm intrigued by the job. I wish they'd gone into it a little bit more about the person that they want him to kill next, because we got a little hint into this person, but I'm very curious about that.
Ooh, yes. This person is set up to be very important or influential, and I'm curious how big of a character they will be.
Agreed. I wish they had given us a little bit of that hint in this first episode, but I'm still intrigued to learn more. So with that, do you want to watch more episodes of The Day of the Jackal on Peacock?
I do. I would watch this again seriously. I like the cat and mouse game of the intelligence officer going after the assassin. And what we've learned about the Jackal is that he does a lot of planning to make everything line up perfectly. And I think that part, the kind of puzzle aspect, is entertaining.
I love logistics.
How do you feel about the show aside from the logistics?
The logistics are attracting me. I think it's very interesting to watch people plan. I'm also very intrigued by this. I think if you like a good thriller, this is a solid entry into that. We are in winter season. I think they put this show out at exactly the right time. This is something that I recommend to folks who, if you're looking for like a cozy show to settle in with, this is a good one, I think, where you just want to sit and watch and uncover the mystery.
Cool. So how about we go to another show centered around mysteries?
You're talking about Cross on Prime Video. Adapted from the hit James Patterson series, my husband Aldous Hodge plays star psychologist and investigator Alex Cross, who is on the hunt, investigating a serial killer and the murderer of his beloved wife.
Very serious premise, very dramatic, serious show.
Very serious. There is a scene where I can't tell if this relationship is quite romantic between Alex Cross and this woman, but she delivers these lines about him needing to basically get it together for his kids in the wake of his wife's passing that is so melodramatic that I felt like I was watching a soap opera, like a stage play, more so than Cross.
I got some of those vibes when he was talking to his police department partner, John Sampson, played by Isaiah Mustafa, where Sampson is like, gotta hold you back, guy. I know what you're going through. I've been trying to get you the help you need.
Yes.
And it's interesting that everyone feels, I guess, protective of Alex.
But not so protective, because we learn Alex Cross has a secret admirer who is sending things to his home and to his place of work, like to his desk, and everyone just laughs it off. And he finds out that someone was in his child's closet and leaves an item in that closet that is connected to his wife's murder. And everyone is so chill about it. He does not relocate his whole family or himself. They just put like cameras up.
That's all you need.
That's all you need, I guess.
It was very creepy because we see some of the scenes where someone has broken into the home while his family is home. So this is someone sneaking around when you turn the corner. Did something walk by? Yes, something did walk by.
If I witnessed something like that, I just feel like you would simply never see me or my kids again. Like, we have disappeared to redacted and we're gone. Like, you were not just putting up cameras in front of my house and being like, next time around, we'll catch him. We'll see him in the act. Have you lost your mind? His children? And the idea that they're not connecting what is happening in this house with these secret admirer letters that are coming to his office is wild to me. Because the other thing is, the mystery is intriguing, but you kind of see whodunit a mile away, or at least someone who's part of whodunit, because it appears like there's multiple people done doing it. But it seems like one of the ringleaders, you see him a mile away. You really do. So I'm curious about how they're going to build that cat and mouse.
True. And I think what makes some of it, let's say, confusing, despite how interesting the mystery is they develop a really strong backstory for Alex Cross. We see what happens to his wife in the opening scene, and that is still with him. He hasn't fully processed it. Maybe he has not even talked to anyone about it.
No. As a psychologist himself, has not sought professional help. It doesn't seem.
And that seems to have turned to him having a lot of anger, which makes it very frustrating to watch some of his decisions, because it's like, you're not thinking with your head when we're told you're very smart. You're thinking with that angry side of yourself.
Yes, we see him keep it calm, cool, and collected in the beginning of the episode when he is investigating a man for a separate crime. And he's interrogating him, and he essentially kind of gets him to admit to a crime. And you go, he kept a cool head, even while this guy was spewing nonsense at him. And, you know, they position him early on as the smartest guy in the room. And they often do this in procedurals where they have the lead solve a mystery real quick at the beginning. And then you go, okay, they're really smart at this kind of thing. So it is interesting, to your point, that his whole thing is understanding how to read people, being this really, really smart people person, a psychologist. And then we see him just be such a loose cannon in other situations where he absolutely should be in control of his temperament. And so in my notes, I have, maybe Alex shouldn't be a cop. Like, maybe he simply should not do what he does for a living. His partner did suggest, like, let's go ahead and take 6 months, man. Let's just full stop for a bit.
And his partner even mentions, like, some of the questions you're asking, like, people are going to try and stop you. You know that. Maybe that means you should stop.
Yeah.
Because he yells at friends. He yells at his family. He essentially yells at another agent who he's getting to do a favor for him.
I forgot about that. Yes. He yells at a stranger.
He yells at strangers. Like, he's got a lot of anger he needs to process.
That dinner party scene where he yelled at that man and threatened him and then broke his girlfriend's china and broke the man. It made me think of that scene in the film Karen where they were having that salon and chatting about Black Lives Matter or something like that. And then it made me miss the New Chitlin Circuit. So shout out to the New Chitlin Circuit who had us watch the film Karen.
Yeah, check out that episode.
But it really felt like that scene to me, the whole thing. And then having it culminate in him as an officer of the law beating a civilian. I was like, okay, maybe
to his
this man
credit,
is a little too hot-headed right now.
To his credit, he said what he was going to do and followed through.
That's true. If someone said to me, which I don't know that I've ever said anything inflammatory to the point where someone might want to hurt me, but if someone said to me, I think like Me Too should be concerned because someone might reach across this table and beat her, I would immediately be like, all right, guys, have a great night.
Yeah.
Sort of signals have been made clear here. I will not get to finish this food, which is fine. I'll just pick something up on the way home.
Exactly. That's when your host has to be like, only one of y'all can stay at the table.
Yes.
Because one of y'all has just admitted you were about to jump over the table and cause a scene.
And instead, everyone continued to sit still. And then that man did exactly as promised.
And they all said,
They were like,
what?
what?
Alex, don't do that.
Oh.
You're better than
Just
that.
like you said you would.
You did follow through, but shame on you.
Shame, shame.
Also, changing the topic,
Yeah.
this show is set in DC, and it feels like it is in DC.
Yeah, lots of mumbo sauce. Some go-go.
Mumbo, they named different neighborhoods. Some of those shots are pictures of DC.
Mm-hmm. They did a good job. Especially a lot of shows are set in DC, and they often feel nothing like DC. So I do appreciate the level of effort here.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of TV shows say DC and you just see White House or some monuments. Here, they're actually going a step further and be like, here are places that a local might go to in DC.
Yes, exactly.
So back to the drama. Will you keep watching more episodes of Cross on Prime Video to see the drama, the action, the anger?
That's a tough question for me because I'm intrigued by the mystery. I really want to know what happened to his wife, and I want to understand how they're going to turn this into a cat and mouse. But the show does also get political in a way that's a little bit difficult to watch, that I think would be hard to watch again seriously for me. It's not quite like Say Nothing, where I would need to take like emotional breaks from the show, but just that I don't think this is one like Day of the Jackal, where I picture myself with like a big cozy blanket and just settling in to watch the mystery. I think this one I would watch again casually, probably. And if you're into thrillers, I think you would enjoy this one. I have only read one Alex Cross book, but I know James Patterson Hive is really strong. And I think of the adaptations of Alex Cross, I think y'all would be pleased with this one versus when Tyler Perry played him. And then I believe Morgan Freeman was briefly Alex Cross, but that was for a movie, so not a series.
I didn't realize how many adaptations there were.
A couple that I'm aware of.
Well, with this particular one, I think I would also watch again casually. The murder mystery is the most exciting part to me.
Okay.
And I'm curious about the creepy killer that we see throughout the episode. I'm calling him that because he does a lot of creepy medical related activities, I'll say. And I want to see him taken down.
That's true. And the actor playing that creepy guy, I really like.
Oh, okay. You've been following the creepy guy.
I guess, yeah. Am I on the wrong side of history here?
You do you.
Okay, when someone says you do you, or if you like it, I love it, you know that you're in the wrong, but that's fine. If I can remember correctly, my question to you was, what is the next book you want to see made into a TV show?
That is what you asked.
Okay. What is it?
Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson.
Ooh, what's it about?
It is a fantasy novel in this world where I guess essentially Robin Hood, the poor people are rebelling against the wealthy people because they're led by a guy who essentially treats himself as God. And there's this magic type system where you can use different types of metal to get different types of powers. It might actually be optioned for a movie, but I would like to see it as a television series.
Okay, I'm intrigued. I kind of just want to read it, though.
You should read it. And I will add, I would like it in the style of Arcane on Netflix.
Ooh. Shout out to Arcane Hive. Y'all just got y'all's new season.
Season 2, part 1 and 2 so far.
Nice. All right. Where can people find more episodes of the Pilot Podcast?
All they have to do is head to our website at thepilotpodcast.com, and you can follow us on all of your favorite podcast platforms.
You can also follow us on social media at The Pilot Pod, and you can send thoughts, feelings, show recommendations, because every other week we do a show recommended by you, our wonderful listeners, to askthepilotpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Bye.